विश्व में हमने युवाओं की आईटी एनर्जी के माध्यम से अपना एक रुतबा खड़ा किया है और भारत इसके बात के लिए गर्व कर सकता है। दुनिया में हम आंख में आंख मिला करके बात कर सकते हैं। और ये मेरा साफ मैं हमेशा कहता आया हूँ, आईटी प्लस आईटी इज इक्वल टू आईटी। इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी प्लस इंडियन टैलेंट इज इक्वल टू इंडिया टुमारो।
Good morning, everybody. I am Karthik Sharma, Associate Editor, eGov Magazine, Elets Technomedia, and I welcome all of you in the virtual event Governance Leadership Summit, organized by Elets Technomedia and eGov Magazine. This event is a two-day event on the leadership of governance. Various leaders, stakeholders, achievers in governance sector will be participating in these 2 days and discussing the ideas, the best practices, and the solutions for best form of governance in the country. And this event is being broadcasted on Avatar, a 3D virtual platform by Elets Technomedia, and thousands of people will be watching this conference who have registered to watch this conference live and to interact with question and answers with the speakers in these 2 days. We are fortunate enough to have a wonderful personality to deliver the opening remarks of the Governance Leadership Summit. The person who has been very instrumental in the governance development of the in the governance sector, in the overall development of the country's governance ecosystem. The person as finance secretary who has great tremendous works in the finance in improving the financial ecosystem of the country, and the person who has been very instrumental in the UIDAI and Aadhaar implementations in the country, person who has been instrumental in implementing various IT initiatives in the state of Maharashtra. I would like to introduce you all to Mr. Ajay Bhushan Pandey, former Finance Secretary of Government of India. He is here with us to deliver the welcome address, and to welcome him at the summit, I request Dr. Ravi Gupta, founder and CEO of Elets Technomedia, to please welcome Dr. Ajay Bhushan Pandey.
Sir, for joining us. It's an honor and a privilege to have you with us in the opening session of the Governance Leadership Summit. And let me welcome all our audience who are watching us also on Avatar platform. And let me also inform each of the audience and the people who are watching us that Elets has been an organization which was founded in 2005, and Elets has been bringing out a magazine called eGov, which is India's and Asia's first and only magazine on e-governance for the last 17 years. And this is a very big milestone for us, which we are very proud of, that we have been documenting and creating awareness about e-governance initiatives in this country for a long time. And we have this honor of organizing this GLS, which is the Governance Leadership Summit, which is bringing together leaders from several states of the country, several departments of the country who are taking big steps in creating awareness about ICT in government ecosystem. And one of the most prominent figures of e-governance in this country is our speaker, Shri Ajay Bhushan Pandey ji, who recently retired as the Finance Secretary of the Government of India. And we started interacting with him when he was the IT Secretary of Government of Maharashtra. And I remember my interactions with him like around a decade back when he was in Maharashtra, and he was leading a lot of e-governance initiatives in Maharashtra, which are still continuing and benefiting lakhs of citizens every day. And from there, he moved to several departments, and one of the most prominent department was the Aadhaar, the UIDAI, and that is a far-reaching initiative of the Government of India, and Sir has played an important role in developing the whole Aadhaar framework and implementing it in the government of Maharashtra in a big way. And from there, his role in the central government has been exemplary, and his initiatives on bringing on several policy reforms in the IT sector and the financial sector has been exemplary. So I will request our esteemed speaker, Shri Ajay Bhushan Pandey ji, to deliver his address and enlighten with his vision of IT governance and how he sees the past decade and how he sees the next decade of e-governance in India. Over to you, sir.
Good morning to everyone. It is indeed my pleasure to address this August gathering, which has been organized by AILETS. Actually, just now, Dr. Ravi Gupta mentioned that this magazine he's been bringing for last 17 years. And I also recall that I actually got into this whole IT field in government in 2004. So in that manner, I think, my age in this and the AILETS e-governance, we are almost started, at the same time. So we have been interacting with Dr. Ravi Gupta and his team for last about 17 years. And I must admire that, in this field, a lot of players, a lot of, people came and went away, but he has persisted. And this is something which is very, very admirable. And, and a lot of credit to, because this is not an easy field, right? I mean, this is something which persists, and in a very, very persistent manner, he keeps collecting the information, and so that everyone can benefit out of it. He keeps bringing all the players, whether it is a government or a private sector, on a forum like this at a regular interval, so that the knowledge doesn't remain confined in pockets, but starts spreading, and then ultimately everybody benefits. So thank you, Dr. Ravi Gupta. Congratulations to you, credit to you and your team, and also Karthik. I mean, both of you, we have known for so many years. Now, today, when I was approached to talk about that, the e-governance leadership, and also particularly the innovation, I would, in a very, very short time, I will try to give you a brief glimpse of where we are, and then what the future holds for us. I must say that in India we have actually undergoing a great digital revolution, right? And when I say I mean, actually I mean this. And I will in the next few minutes I will show you that to where we are, and then in terms of as compared to the world, where exactly we have gone. Now, if you see this India's digital assets, actually, I would put them into three categories. The three categories of India digital assets, which is actually driving the current digital revolution in India. And this is something which will propel India into a much higher level, than, where we are in the coming years. First is this, Aadhaar. Aadhaar, India is the only country in the world, right, which has given biometric-based unique identity to 1.29 billion people, right? Using this Aadhaar, the bank accounts have been opened, right? And bank accounts, just 6-7 years back, many times, when I used to come into a conference like this, we used to say that the people don't have bank account, digital divide, financial divide, and other things. Now, those problems are gone now, right? Because today everyone has a bank account. More than 100 crore people have a bank account. And I do not know whether you are aware of this. 70 crore Aadhaar numbers are uniquely linked to the bank account on the NPCI mapper. What does it mean? 70 crore people, if you want to send any money, you have to just send the money to the Aadhaar number. Now, at the back end somewhere, the bank account is mapped and then the money goes there. So as a sender, I don't need to know somebody's, the IFSC address or bank account number and so and so. I just say that send 1,000 rupees to this Aadhaar number, and then the money reaches into his bank account, right? So this is something 70 crore. I mean, just imagine that total number of adults in the country itself is 85 crores. So the 70 crore people are actually on this Aadhaar mapper. Total number of bank accounts would be about 120 crores. Another very important thing has happened is that the mobile phones. Now today, just few years back, again, we were talking about the digital divide and so and so. Today, again, you have a mobile phone in the range of more than 120 crores. The internet access also has improved during the last few years. So this all has driven us to this JAM trinity, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, and mobile. So this is a one category of assets that we have, right? The second category of assets which we have created in India, again, I mean, these are something which is very, very unique. You have an Aadhaar. On the basis of Aadhaar, you created a bank account. Also, you created the mobile phone and the internet connection. Based on this underlying KYC is Aadhaar, right? So with this, you have done this. Now, the second category of digital assets, which is again driving India, and then again, we are uniquely positioned, is, the GST. The GST as a concept, because I was in the finance ministry, I was also chairman of GST and Department of Revenue Secretary, and then the finance secretary. There are many countries in the world who have implemented GST, and India, we also have GST. But, our GST is a little different. Ours is the only country where, we are collecting invoice-wise details, right? And collecting in the sense that today, the e-invoices are getting generated on the system itself. So the companies having turnover more than 50 crores, they are required to generate the e-invoice, on the system. And once you generate the e-invoice, your GST returns automatically gets prepared. And then, at the end of the month, you have to make the payment. Now, this kind of a granularity, and just imagine, total number of dealers who are registered under the GST is 1 crore 20 lakhs, right? Now, let us, and all of them are filing online returns. Every month they are filing returns. And then, the companies having turnover more than certain limits, they have to actually generate the e-invoice. So all their input tax credit and everything, gets matched automatically. So this kind of granularity and automation, because see, in the tax system, income tax return or whether the GST return, you always give the aggregate value. My total sale is this, my total purchase is this, total income is this. And then what used to happen? So that was a classical, the return system, which the world followed over the decades and the centuries. Now, so the question was that when you have given the aggregate figure, now, so in order to know that whether those aggregate figures are correct and actually reflect your books of account, there is to be auditing done by, the chartered accountants, and then thereafter the auditing and scrutiny done by the income tax or the GST officer, the tax officer. Now, with this kind of a granularity, actually, there will be no audit required, because, if you are generating your invoice and invoice itself is becoming your returns, and then ultimately it becomes your GST return, the GST data gets ported into the income tax portal, income tax, then tell me, why will there be any need for audit then, right? And so therefore, audit will happen only in some very, very select suspect cases where there will be some, some alerts are raised. Otherwise, most of the people will not be able to do this. So this has been attempted, and I can again say on this scale, 1 crore 20, only in India, right? There are certain other countries who have also done a certain level, but then, those are very, very small countries. And then, but to this extent, nobody has been able to do this. So this is again is something, it makes us very, very proud. Now the income tax, total number of taxpayers are about 7 crores. Now, again, Most of the country, they have the mixed system. You can file returns online, and also some people can do paper. Now, India is the only country which has we have reached a stage where the returns can be filed only online, right? And then the people have been filing, then people are getting refund also. I mean, last year we made a lot of changes in the system where, people are getting automated refunds. You don't have to go and apply somewhere. Straight away, the money comes directly into your bank account. The PAN numbers have been linked to Aadhaar. There are total about 50 crores PAN numbers. Out of that, 37 crore PAN numbers have been linked with Aadhaar. And so that itself has led to, the bogus PAN, fake PAN, duplicate PAN, those problems have been completely rolled out. Similarly, in the GST registration also, Aadhaar is also being used. And then, so your tax number, PAN number or GST number is linked to Aadhaar. Then on the other side, it is linked to bank account. On the other side, it is linked to your mobile phone on which you can get OTP, and also you can sign those documents. Today, because of Aadhaar e-sign, you don't require a digital dongle or digital signature, right? I mean, for example, income tax return, you can actually sign through this Aadhaar OTP, right? Similarly, there are many other transactions you can do. So these are some of the things which are happening uniquely only in India. And so this is one. Then the third digital asset is very, very important, and which has come very, very recently during the last 2 years, is the UPI and Aadhaar enabled payment system. Again, UPI is the internet of payment, and it's in the whole world. India is the only country which has got into this stage of the UPI. UPI, which was launched 2017, and then the transactions used to be maybe used to grow at a certain level. Last month, just before the pandemic, in the month of April, pandemic second wave, the total number of transactions was 2.7 billion in 1 month, and total amount of volume transacted was around 5 lakh crores, right? Just imagine. Now, in 1 year, in the calendar year 2020, total number of transactions, on the UPI real-time transactions, the money could go from anywhere to anywhere, was 25 billion. 25 billion transactions, so roughly 2 billion a month, and now it has gone to 2.7 billion. So the next year we should be reaching somewhere around 32 billion. Contrast this with China. China has a real-time payment of 15 billion, in 1 year. United States, 2.5 billion. I mean, just imagine that, where, we have leapfrogged, right? We didn't have to go necessarily through the card, the debit card or the credit card or some other mechanism or something like that. It's a UPI. UPI in the sense that, everyone has and then the UPI has been built on, it's an open architecture. So the Google has come out with Google Pay, WhatsApp has come out with this, there is a phone pay, and the money goes directly from your bank account to, somebody else's bank account. During this COVID times, in fact, I wrote an article just about 15 days back in Indian Express where I have mentioned this. And a lot of people must have, like, for example, my household help. She was stranded in a COVID lockdown zone, and she couldn't come to my house for 2 months, but she needed to be paid. How do I send my payment to her, right? So I just asked, and she said that, look, I have a Google Pay, right? And then, I could just make the payment to her. And then I asked her that, how do you get all your household goods, the grocery and other thing? She says that, there's some local corner store. He does the home delivery, but, he accepts the payment again through the Google Pay, right? So just imagine, the earlier this payment divide, digital payment divide, that has completely gone. And how this has happened? Again, the fundamental structure is because why other countries are not able to do this? I mean, knowing that, this is a technology, this is not a rocket science. The question is that we have a foundation of a very, very strong foundation, because, if you don't have this, then the UPI, there will be a lot of frauds. The money will not reach, somebody will take away the money and all this. Now, what has happened is every bank account is linked with Aadhaar, the verified, so the person can't run away, right? Then, every mobile phone number also today, the most people give their Aadhaar number to get the mobile phone, right? So their mobile phone also has this. And then on the top of that, there is a UPI, which allows you to transfer money from one account to another. Now, if both ends are secure, then the transactions have to be secure. And you are very confident that if you are sending money through the UPI, it is directly going to the bank account. And tomorrow, if that person turns out to be fraud, that person can be traced and brought to justice. So this confidence actually, and plus another very important thing that we did in 2019 budget, there is to be in all these payments, there is to be something like some merchant discount, a merchant fee used to be charged. That if you are making a transaction through the debit card or something like that, you have to pay some either 0.5% or 1% depending upon their policy. In 2019, the government took a very crucial step. It amended the income tax law, and it said that any company having turnover more than 50 crore has to offer, along with the other modes of payment it may be offering, like the credit card, debit card, and other, also the UPI and UPI QR code. So that's why today, when you go to any e-commerce website or anywhere, you say you can pay by a debit card, credit card, or wallet, and also there you'll find that UPI option, right? Or if you go to any departmental store, he will show you a QR code, and it will be a UPI QR code, so you can make the payment without any charge. The merchant is not charged, and then the customer is also not charged. So that therefore, it is growing in this manner. So the Income Tax Act was amended and said that it has become mandatory, and and Payment and Settlement Act was amended and said that UPI you can't charge any MDR or merchant discount rate or something. That itself led to you have led to a huge growth, right? And in fact, there is one very interesting incident I will mention. Just on 9th of June, today is 16th of June, 9th of June, there was a congressional hearing in US. They were talking about the digital currency. So there, the one senator from Montana, congressman, he mentioned that, look, US has far behind, and India and China have gone. There is a professor from Stanford University, the professor Darrell Duffy. He has written a full, in his testimony, he said that, the US payment system has to become very, very efficient. And he has quoted the example of India and China. So this is again something which is making us very, very proud. So basically these three assets are actually, driving India's, the digital growth. It's indeed a digital revolution. And now based on these, the fundamental building blocks, you can use this in governance. Right today, let's say, you want an e-sign or some payment, because after all, any project that you take, you want to confirm the identity, you want to take some payment, right? And then you want to secure community, you want to, have a, traceability and, audit trail and everything. These assets, these three things actually provide that, right? And I think, this is something which will be very, very useful. So all our leaders today who are listening to this, these are public infrastructure. These are Aadhaar, JAM, and UPI, and all these tax system. They are not proprietary of any company or something like that. You can build your product on this, right? And a product on this, or governments, for example, the central government, when it wanted to, under the Kisan Samman Yojana, send money to the farmers. It was very easy for them. 9 crore farmers actually had to, they were paid, they are being paid every quarter 2,000 rupees, through this, the Aadhaar-based payment system, right? Aadhaar payment bridge, through the direct benefit transfer. During COVID, 23 crore people were paid directly money into their bank account. 3 times, total amount was something like, again, about 40,000 crores. So during COVID time, during the normal time, all those, these building blocks, these facilities could be used and to take India into further. And these are the assets uniquely available in India, and it is a public infrastructure, which can be used by government as well as the private. So I think, I will end here, and maybe, a lot of people may be having some questions or discussions. So I wanted this to be interactive. So this was a very, very brief kind of an introduction. and I will welcome any suggestions, any comments, or any questions. Thank you.
Sure, sir. I think you have highlighted the unique aspects of the Indian payment system and Indian digital journey and India's steps towards bridging the financial accessibility divide. Like every, even a villager having a access to payment system on mobile, thanks to UPI and Aadhaar. And let me ask you, sir, that on one side, the adoption of IT by citizens has been very, very good. The adoption of government systems in the usage of IT has also increased dramatically in the last decade. But still, there are a lot of concerns that a lot of citizen services are still not available on mobile or not available easily. So, how do you see the changes coming in next 5 years or 3 years?
Yeah, so it's a very great question. And I'll tell you, I'll explain you by an example. I recently, I have a, apartment in Navi Mumbai, right? And where I don't live, but then, and my tenant had left. So for last 3-4 months, the flat is lying vacant. So I wanted to pay the electricity bill. Now, the electricity bill, so I went to the, the Maharashtra State Electricity Distribution Company website portal, and I entered my consumer number, so then I could see the bill. And when I looked at the bill, it was in few thousands of rupees, right? So I thought that, maybe mistake because my apartment is locked. So how could, the bill maybe in a few thousand, I think it was 3,000, 4,000 rupees, right? So, when I was in 2006-07, when I was managing director of Maharashtra State Electricity Distribution Company, I had implemented one small, the IT step there. Because I used to get a lot of complaints that people used to say that, my bill is, not correct. The wrong reading is there, or the bill meter is not there. All of a sudden, in this month, I have got so much bill. So I said that, in addition to what is written on the bill, typed on the bill, the bill will also carry the photo of the meter itself. And in the meter, you have the reading. So every month you have the reading. So therefore, this is again an undisputed proof, right? So I started way back in 2007. So I was not sure whether, that still continues. But I was, pleasantly surprised when I saw that, look, in that, there is a photo of the meter there. So I said that this is the photo of the meter. And then, then past few months also the photo of the meter was there. So then I got the confirmation that the bill is correct. Now I wanted to make a payment. So I went to the payment site. Now payment again, I was surprised. I was surprised that, it has a credit card, debit card, and then it says a UPI QR code, right? So, I have a Bheem UPI on my mobile phone. I just scanned and then, immediately the payment went. So I felt again very proud that two of the things, which I was very, very closely involved from the government side. Today, as a citizen, I could get the benefit, by sitting in Delhi, right? So I just an example. So my, request would be that, every, the leader there, whether it is working in the state government and central government, he has to actually pick every citizen service today, and he should, apply his mind that how can he make this, the completely faceless. The whole idea is that how do you make it faceless? And, another example I'll give you. For example, income tax, many of people who used to pay income tax, if your case comes under the scrutiny, you have to go and explain to the officer. Now, last year, we made the entire income tax department faceless. If you get a scrutiny notice, you send your reply online, and then your case will get allotted to any officer in the country, right? Not necessarily the area in which we are living. So we actually, and today, and it allowed us to do that. Today, the technology, the hardware and then internet connectivity, and plus the digital asset that I mentioned to you. Earlier, the problem used to be, how do you know the person who is applying online, whether, he is indeed the person? Now that problem is gone. How do you collect the payment? Everybody can't do debit card, credit card, and other thing. Now, you can say that, people can make payment through the UPI QR code. It doesn't require much of a financial literacy. So I would request today, for example, I saw it many places like driver license. What has happened is that they will provide you all the information. They will take all your info, fill the form online, and then they will say, please visit. Right. Today, I see that in very, very few rare cases, the person should be required to visit. If we can do the conference like this, sitting at a different parts of the world, right? Today, tell me, what cannot else be done there? So the whole idea is that, the people have to review, let's say, if I am working in a department, I should see that, what are my citizen touch points, right? And then we should say that, look, I should ensure that I should not see the face of the citizen and citizens should not see my face. And how do we go about it? I think, this is a really lot of hard work has to be done. Merely saying that, I have done the portal and I have, put, 1,000 services online doesn't mean much. It has to be end to end, right? And end to end means that, I should not be seeing the face of anyone, right? Physical presence should be something, this is something which we should, unless and until we work on this. And today I can tell you that, if you give me a problem, right, I am pretty sure that I will give you a solution with all these blocks that digital assets that in India we have. And I should be able to give you a solution that, if you do these 5 things, you will make your services faceless. I think, this is something which, a lot of people can do this. In fact, there is an exercise for you, Dr. Ravi Gupta. Can you, help, right? And, identify to start with, 30 services, right? Which are claimed to be, online, but which are not online, right? Which are not online. And then you can say that, look, this is how it should be done, right? And then, have a small conference or seminar and then do this brainstorming. And I'm pretty sure that within 2 days, right, you will make all those 30 things, saying that, these are the steps. And I think, if you start doing for 30, it can be a scale to 300 or 3,000.
Exactly. I think it's a great points and a great discussion. It's what a journey you have had and you have seen in like the last 16, 17 years, how much India has dramatically changed, and this financial accessibility, banking equality that has been bridged. And I think now the next step is to make those e-governance services truly online and truly mobile friendly, so that even a common man who's able to use UPI so easily, Google Pay so easily, he can also use e-governance services very, very easily. So with this, we will end this session here, sir. And from the AILETS, we would like to present you virtually a certificate of thanks for being here. And I will request my colleague Karthik to deliver the closing remarks. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. And as always, we are always thankful to you, sir. We have learned a lot from your works, from your achievements. It has always been a part of our research and analysis, and it has helped AILETS in growing awareness in terms of usage of digital and technology. You have been a great inspiration, not for us, but also a lot of officers, a lot of industry leaders, and a lot of people in this country. Thank you so much for everything, sir, and thank you so much for being here today for opening remarks of Governance Leadership Summit. Thank you so much.
Thank you.